You know, there are these rare moments in international football where a tournament stops being about national borders and it just becomes about pure, unadulterated individual gravity. Tonight at the 2026 World Cup Quarterfinals down in Florida, the beautiful game is giving us an absolute generational blockbuster. Welcome to our explainer on this massive tactical collision, Norway versus England. For decades, right, this fixture was treated like a predictable, uneven hierarchy. A match where the sheer depth of English football history would systematically wear down the Nordic underdogs. But as we're about to see, the rules of modern football have been entirely torn to shreds. And those rules were torn up by a single, terrifying force of nature. Erling Haaland didn't just carry Norway past five-time world champions Brazil, he has literally transformed an entire nation into a lethal, giant-killing collective. I mean, just listen to what his Premier League rival Morgan Rogers noted from the England camp. Has anyone stopped Erling Haaland? You can never be surprised if Erling scores 2 goals, he keeps doing it, and he really does. He arrives in Miami riding an impossible, history-defying 14-game competitive international scoring streak.
But standing directly across from him is an England team playing with this cold-blooded, high-octane maturity under Thomas Tuchel. So this is no longer just a match. We are looking at a fundamental collision of two distinct philosophies. The unstoppable force, that terrifying vertical attack of Norway going head-to-head with the immovable object, Tuchel's highly structured England. It's a historic hunt for the golden boot, and a brutal battle for tactical survival where only one superstar is going to walk off that pitch victorious. Moving into Section 1, the Haaland problem and Norway's vertical transition machine. Okay, let's dive straight into the tactical puzzle that Thomas Tuchel has to solve tonight. To really understand the gravity of this threat, we have to quantify exactly what England's backline is up against. And honestly, the individual metrics behind the Norwegian threat are just staggering. Just look at this number, 62. Coming into this match, Haaland boasts an absolutely absurd 62 goals in just 54 appearances for Norway. That is a jaw-dropping strike rate of 1.15 goals per game on the international stage. He's this smiling assassin, effortlessly pairing skillful finishing with a cold demeanor that has completely rewritten his country's record books. And then there's the momentum he's carrying into Miami. 14. An impossible 14-game competitive international scoring streak. During this run alone, he's bagged 27 goals. He even found the net in each of his first 4 World Cup appearances. That's a feat only achieved by one other European player in the history of the sport. But what's truly mind-bending is the context of his dominance. Haaland reached 50 international goals, 44 matches faster than Kylian Mbappe. Seriously, let that sink in for a second. Mbappe needed 90 caps to get there. Haaland did it in 46. He completely dwarfs the records of Lionel Messi, who took 107 games, and Cristiano Ronaldo, who took 114 games to hit that exact same milestone. We are watching someone redefine goal-scoring consistency in real time. But here's the thing. Haaland doesn't operate in a vacuum. Which brings us to Norway's overarching system. To fully comprehend the tactical puzzle, we have to look directly at the unique, automated passing networks driving Norway's transitional machine. Under Ståle Solbakken, they've completely abandoned any desire for passive, slow possession. Instead, they defend in a compact mid-block, usually a 4-1-4-1 or a 4-5-1, and they just wait for a single trigger. The second the ball is won in the middle third, the entire system activates with absolute vertical urgency. And the primary architect behind this delivery? It's Martin Ødegaard. When you look at the data tracking, it reveals that Odegaard operates with this elite spatial awareness. He drops deep into the right half spaces to test the opposition's press, which gives Norway a +1 advantage in the build-up. This forces opponents into a terrible choice. Do you follow him and drag your defensive midfielders entirely out of position? Or do you sit back and let him dictate the play? By manipulating this space, Odegaard creates the split-second vacuum in the midfield. And that split-second vacuum is exactly what Haaland is waiting for. He doesn't just blindly sprint in a straight line, right? He exploits that vacuum using a series of incredibly deceptive counter-movements. Against Brazil, we actually saw him take slow, small steps to lure the defender into a false sense of security, baiting the center back forward before using his blistering acceleration to attack the open space behind and head the ball home. It is a two-man combination that has rendered traditional defensive containment models completely useless all summer. So how on earth do you stop it? Well, that brings us to Section 2, the Tuchel solution, focusing on spatial architecture and structural discipline. Let's flip the pitch and look at England's tactical countermeasures, because if there is one manager on the planet who specializes in dismantling specific player gravity, it is absolutely Thomas Tuchel. He isn't interested in a chaotic shootout, he's interested in structural suffocation. And that whole philosophy starts with a concept called spatial architecture. Under Tuchel, a starting formation is really just a suggestion. It's a tactical framework where England's shape morphs dynamically based on ball location and opposition pressing triggers. Tuchel has moved the national side entirely away from rigid, static setups. He favors asymmetric fluidity to maintain collective control across literally every phase of the game. Looking at this breakdown of England's structural metamorphosis, you can see on paper, sure, it's a 4-2-3-1, but in the initial build-up, it morphs right into a 3-2-4-1, with John Stones either stepping into midfield or shifting centrally to create a back three. When they progress through the middle third, they overload the center with inverted fullbacks like Reece James and a double pivot of Declan Rice and Kobbie Mainoo. They deliberately isolate their playmakers in the half spaces. It's a highly calculated structure designed specifically to create numerical superiority and totally bypass the opposition's first line of pressure. But here is England's real secret weapon for tonight: rest defense. Insiders within the England camp suggest that the three lines are going to counter Norway's vertical lanes by deploying an aggressive, highly disciplined rest defense architecture. Basically, instead of allowing their fullbacks to fly forward blindly and leave massive gaps, England's structural line is going to compress into a sliding three-man back grid the second they lose the ball. Because the objective isn't just to wrestle Haaland once he actually gets the ball. No, the objective is to cut off the oxygen at the source. It's a strict three-step blueprint. Step 1, allow no space in behind. Defenders like Mark Gahey will anticipate and drop off early. Step 2, force him onto his right foot. Get this, of his 112 Premier League goals, only 13 have come from his weaker right side. And Step 3, cut off the supply. John Stones and Declan Rice will be tasked with building a suffocating tracking triangle directly around Martin Ødegaard, aggressively preventing him from turning his body toward the final third. If you force Norway to play backward, you completely isolate their superstar and starve him of that transitional service. Now let's zoom out from the macro tactical systems for just a second. Welcome to Section 3, the race for immortality and the golden boot subplot. While this tactical chess match is going to dictate the shape of the pitch, the raw emotional motivation behind this fixture really comes down to a race for historical immortality. The individual stakes tonight are just astronomical. Take a look at where this pressure cooker stands right now. The 2026 Golden Boot leaderboard is incredibly tight. Lionel Messi and Kylian Mbappe are currently sitting at the very top of the planet with 8 goals each. But Erling Haaland, he is breathing right down their necks with 7 goals in just 4 matches. He knows that a multi-goal masterclass tonight isn't just about advancing to the semifinals. It's the definitive launching pad to claim the crown and permanently etch his name right over the old guard. And what's really fascinating is how his quest contrasts directly with his counterpart, Harry Kane. Their distinct attacking profiles perfectly mirror the overarching philosophies of their teams. Haaland is all about those explosive physical bursts, lethal vertical urgency, and being the ultimate elite transition threat. Kane's approach? It's a stark contrast. The England captain acts as this floating playmaker. He drops deep to link up with Bukayo Saka and Phil Foden, facilitating a much more methodical, possession-based control. It's 2 completely different weapons, but each is absolutely vital to their nation's survival. So, the most crucial point to take away from this explainer is this. For England, possession is the ultimate defense. Just look at the data. England has averaged 58.1% possession in this tournament compared to Norway's 53.1%. If England has the ball, Norway doesn't. Simple as that. And if Norway doesn't have the ball, they can't feed Odegaard, meaning Haaland's transitional superpower is entirely neutralized. Tuchel knows that taking the sting out of the game through technical retention is the safest way to break the Norse code. Which leaves us with the ultimate question as we approach kickoff down in Miami. On one side, you have the greatest goal-scoring anomaly of this generation, a player who literally turns half chances into historical milestones. On the other side, you have a master tactician who has engineered a squad specifically designed to suffocate individual brilliance through collective structural discipline. So what do you think? Can Tuchel's disciplined spatial architecture ultimately suffocate a 62-goal force of nature? Or is Erling Haaland simply inevitable? Pay close attention to that midfield battle tonight, folks, because the moment Odegaard finds even half a yard of space, history could be rewritten all over again.